I had no idea that between power blackouts and the re-precincting that the city did, that it would take me as long as it did to do the analysis that I've done so far. And I don't know if Mary Eliza was able to post the three maps yet, but hopefully she's done that. This has all been sort of fly by your seat of your pants, technologically speaking, and we were still trying to make sure I had Zoom access until about noon today. So here I am.
Which map do you want first?
We won't do them yet, but we will do them shortly. I'm going to give an overview first. The turnout in this election was significantly higher than in the primary. The primary was 229,000. It was 310,000 for the general election. And I think that the higher turnout definitely brought out the more progressive voters, and I put that in quotes, than we had during the primary. The driving force of the primary was the recall of the school board members, and you had a high turnout of Chinese, particularly both homeowners and renters, which really carried the day. And or actually, that was in February. It was the recall of Bodine, and as you know, Bodine lost by nearly 10 points, but it was a major drive of force. We had the big surprise at that time, and it seemed like a great victory that we defeated the bond measure for the transit, and we got like 60. It got over 35% of the vote, and you needed 1/3. And the hope was that that would continue on to the extension of the tax, the sales tax. It did not happen. We dropped approximately 6.5 points. And I did some stats which are kind of interesting here. The vote was 138,000 in favor to 74,000 against in the primary. The vote on Prop L was 209,000 in favor and 82,000 for against. Now, if you look at the difference between the two, the yes forces got 70,516 votes. The no people got 7,870, nearly a 9-to-1 ratio. And so what happened? The fact of the matter is that they were outspent. The no on L people spent less than $2,000. The yes on the L people spent 1.5 million. Oof. And I don't know how the hell you can compete with that kind of money. I was looking at a group called Neighbors for Better San Francisco, not to be confused with Republicans or Citizens for Better San Francisco, which was a Republican front group for Central Committee many years. But it's basically the tech billionaires. And it's like they can drop like $100,000 with a drop of a hat and not even bat their eyes. It's like our giving a $15 tip. And I'm not being sarcastic when I'm saying that. I mean, that's how much thought they put into their spending. They have money and they're spending it, whether wisely or unwisely. I think in many cases, unwisely. But they basically raised $1.5 million on Prop L. On Prop D, which we'll get to, they raised and spent about $2.5 million. On Prop I, they raised $947,000, and that was another campaign that spent less than $2,000. And well, no, that's not true. On I, they did spend about $500,000, but 90% of that was to qualify the measure for the ballot. And by the time that they did that, they ran out of funds. And they didn't add any more money substantially into their campaign the last month of the campaign when people were starting to vote. We'll talk about the propositions a little bit later, but we'll talk about the basic candidates. And one other thing on the propositions, we will not be having any elections this year. Given the wisdom of the voters and the disinterest on the part of the billionaires, they finally threw in $150,000 to defeat it the last 3 days of the campaign. Someone advised them very poorly on that. But London Breed, as you know, is opposed to the measure, as was the Republican Party. But quite frankly, the Democratic Socialists, primarily in Preston, were really pushing it because their hope is to take over the mayor's office, the district attorney's office, and also the sheriff's office, offices that they controlled 5 or 6 years ago. So on the candidates, the big surprise was that the Labor-backed candidates for College Board defeated all the incumbent members of the College Board. And the mayor and, the Chronicle and a whole bunch of other people, basically center right and even liberal, were supporting the incumbents, who were progressive as well. So you have the ironic thing that you get all the members. One was the president of the United Educators Union, and Solomon, and she just retired from that position. But you have the union people winning, but their union-backed measure, Prop O, lost 2-1. My guess is that because you only need a plurality to get elected to the College Board, is that those people who voted for Prop O also voted for the College Board, but the opposition was divided and split the vote, and that's how they got elected. On the school board, Ann Shue, who's the most moderate of the candidates, barely lost her election. She lost by about 4,000 votes to a progressive candidate. The two mayoral candidates or nominees beyond Shue did win election. And they actually, interestingly enough, the Democrats endorsed 2 of the incumbents and only one of the challengers, Fisher, who did get elected. So that's a win for them, but a loss for the mayor because she lost one of her appointees. The other mayoral, there are a couple of mayoral appointees. The Dorsey won handily over, and I have a map to show that. But let's see if you can see this on the screen. Let's see, we have that. Is that right side up? Okay, all the areas that are colored, Dorsey won in District 6 and over the chair of the Democratic Party. And so I think that district now is no longer left-wing progressive as it was under Daley and under Kim, and now, and I don't know what Haney is, but it's moved to sort of moderate progressive under Dorsey. So a slight shift to the right. On Prop 4, that was, or rather on District 4, that was the big surprise. I don't think that anyone thought that Engardio could win in that district. And it's 4% Asian, and most of the homeowners are Asian. most of the whites are, you know, are renters, to be honest, in that district. And I think we had a switcheroo here. I think that when we look at when we dig into the data, I believe that we're going to find that Engardio probably got a majority of the Asian vote, and Mar got a majority of the white vote. So go figure. But it has to do with where their politics are, which is on crime and on Prop I, and we'll see that very clearly that of the measures that the coalition supported that were controversial. Prop I did very well in the Sunset District. And, you know, there's a whole strip of precincts where it carried in the Sunset District. So I think that was a crime. And as far as housing goes, obviously you had people on both sides of Prop D and E. One wanted to have affordable housing built, which was more affordable. The other wanted to have more middle-class housing built, but high density in both cases. Prop 2 was unopposed. Stefani got a free ride, which is amazing. We talked about 6-8. There was no real contest there, nor in District 10. The district attorney's race was a lot closer than I thought it would be. But, you know, I think that notwithstanding Jenkins' controversies over like working for the campaign or for a nonprofit affiliated with the campaign, she squeaked by. And however, should she be up? I don't know if she's going to be up in 2024 or 2028 because of the change to the charter. She could have difficulty because as much as this was a progressive electorate, it will be a super progressive electorate in the presidential general election. So that could change. Let's see what else. Interesting thing on turnout, and I have been contesting this with the Department of Elections for the last 25 years. I did so when I was on the Elections Commission or the Elections Task Force, but a advisory committee, and it never has been corrected. What they do to create percentages for multi-candidate districts, such as school board and college board, is that they add up all the votes that go to the candidates for 3 or 4 seats and then divide, use that as a denominator. So you could have the winner winning with 20% of the vote. No, that's not how it should be done.
Yeah.
It should be done on the basis of the number of ballots cast in the race. And more precisely, it should be done on the number of people who actually vote in the race. And what I found, God forbid, I wanted the Department of Elections to do my job for me, but they gave me the entire voter file of people who voted, 307,000. And so what I did is I did a 1/10 of 1% sample. I did 307 people. So I started at 500, then skipped to 1,500, 2,500. Took me about 3 days to do it. What I found was that for the school board, that the drop off was about 16%, and the drop off was about 22% for the college board. So what that means is that, let's say you use Jaravio that got 40,000 votes, and she was well out of the running. What it means is that there was probably about 230,000 people who voted in her race, and she got about 17% of the vote, which is reasonably good for a former Republican who was probably no one knew that she was anything other than a Republican. But basically, there were very few candidates that got a majority of the vote, and a lot of them, the threshold for getting elected using that formula was about 35 to 40%. Let's see, what else do I want to say on that? So let's go back to the measures. Prop A, which you guys supported, won overwhelmingly, and I don't really need to go into that. D and E is very interesting. You guys supported E, if I'm correct, and opposed D. Am I correct?
I think so, yeah.
Right. Well, they both lost. And
Yeah.
I think that part of it was that there was so much money spent by both sides that the voters said, well, there's obviously something wrong with both of them. They voted no. But I have an additional hypothesis, which is that actually there are certain neighborhoods or districts like 1, 4, and 7, which voted against both and in large numbers. And they were saying, you know, we don't care how you classify how the affordable housing is. We just don't want you to build any, you know, in our districts. There are other districts in which it won in all districts. I have that here. Let me pull it out. Okay, I'm looking here. Or the no, I'm looking at the no now. Let's see. So Prop District 5, and let's see. Well, at any rate, 5 in particular voted for it, and the rest were kind of split. So I think it would be useful to do a precinct by precinct analysis to find out those precincts that went strongly against both measures. And I would say that if you're on the Board of Supervisors, that you might want to look very carefully to how the people in your district voted. If you're going to support, you know, denser housing in your district. So I'll leave it at that. Prop I and J were the next ones of interest, and obviously we wanted to. And Mary, I think we can put Prop I on. Mary, are you there? Mary Eliza?
Yeah, I'm coming. I'm getting it. Hold on.
Okay, great.
I gotta share the screen. So I gotta get it. Okay.
Chris, while you're waiting, I have a question. Did D4 vote for or against Prop I, or was it really, really close?
No, I didn't hear what you're saying.
D4, how did it vote on Prop I?
Which district?
District 4, Mars District, in Gardio's district.
Okay, Mars District on Prop D was 60%.
No, Prop I,
Oh, Prop I.
JFK closure, Great Highway. The one you have on the screen.
Yeah, I don't have that data. I don't know. I think it was, I think it was 50.6%. And that was the only district in which you know, Prop I passed. But let me go over the map here. Now, wait a minute, is that I, dear? That's not I.
That's not I?
That's
Okay.
not I.
It says I don't mind.
Okay, is it that one?
No.
It says Prop I too.
Is that
No.
Prop
I?
H.
No,
Prop H.
That's the I you sent me.
no, it's the one that's really dark.
Oh, maybe I didn't get it. There.
Well, maybe, okay, that's probably, go back. Okay, yeah, that's it.
That's it. It's the most in focus also.
Right, well,
Okay.
thank you.
Guys have it.
But is there a way of enlarging that slightly or not?
Let me see. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I
Um,
can't see it myself now.
How's that?
Very
Well,
good.
I have something on top of it. Let me get out of that.
Can everybody see it now?
Yeah.
Very
that's-
nice.
So the areas that are red, Prop I won. And the areas that are dark red, it won by more than 55%.
Hmm.
Now take a look, for instance, at Lake Shore and Merced Manor and Crescent and Crescent Lake or Crest Lake.
And you
All
see,
over 55%. Hello?
and you see my cursor?
Yes.
Okay, just checking.
Okay, that's they all got over 55%. Actually, some of them got substantially over 60%. I ran out of colors. But look at Sea Cliff and also the Outer Richmond. So, and then you go down, unfortunately, the colors don't come out as strong as I'd like, but along Sunset Boulevard. And, you know, it's just everyone that is directly impacted by that voted very strongly in favor of I, but areas that you wouldn't expect. So over there, you know, by the Eagles Beak, what is it, Merced?
Merced
Triangle?
Extension Triangle.
Right, that voted for it. And then you go out to Visitation Valley and Crocker Amazon, and also like into the Bayview Hunters Point. And there's a couple of precincts where it got over 50%. Now, a lot of that's Chinese, but a lot of it is also, you know, people that are just pissed off about having to, you know, having all closed. Now, the odd thing is, now I haven't finished the map, quite frankly, but I will tell you that there are only 8 precincts. It passed in 75 precincts out of roughly 510. So, but if you go to districts 3, 5, 8, and 9, no, 5, let me try it again. You go back to 2, 3, 5, 6, and 8. It only passed in 8 precincts. And in districts 10 and 9, it didn't pass in any precincts north of 280 or Cesar Chavez. But so this is very much an east-west battle. There might be some areas that on the map will appear to be yellow, which is over 30% in the areas I haven't done yet. But the areas that were important, I wanted to highlight, which is basically what we used to call part of the Barbershop Sea. And that's very evident here. If there had been, you know, more money, I would say like twice the number of money to be spent on the campaign rather than just qualifying the measure for the ballot, they might have done quite a bit better. What hurt, though, was the controller's statement that about the $80 million, about the erosion along, you know, along the Great Highway. And
Also the fun factor. They had the fun factor. They sold fun. That's how they,
well, no, but the fun factor, FUN,
yes.
well, there is that element too. But I think the $80 million, if you look at the like districts 1, 4, 7, 8, all of those voted a lot stronger against Jay than they did for I. And I think a lot of it was that they were nervous about the Great Highway. It was part of the measure. But they were more willing to vote in favor of opening up JFK.
Oh, okay.
Chris, if I can interrupt for just a second, I'd like to
Yeah.
ask people to hold their questions for the end of his presentation. We have a couple of pre-submitted questions also. So let's wait
Right.
on those. Thank you.
Now, getting back to the fun factor. Now, again, you notice as you go east, particularly north of 280, the lighter the color. So it goes from above 55% to 50%, 45, 40, 35, which is light orange, and then yellow is over 30%. Notice, interesting, and I'm pointing to the thing, I don't know if that works, but if you look at the areas adjacent to the east side of the park, mostly students and renters,
Oh, yeah.
they were under 30% in favor of the measure. No, but I mean, look at the areas between Arguello and Park Presidio, and between 19th and Sanion on the south. And so this is a dilemma. You know, the demographics of the city have changed. They're younger and they're newer. They're not people that have lived here. They don't have an appreciation for what the needs of homeowners are. You know, as far as they, or the disabled, and as far as they want to do, they want to have their fun, regardless of who has to pay the price on it. But this is a problem for the coalition and for all the neighborhood organizations, is that they're getting older and they're not really educating or embracing and educating the newcomers to the city on our values. And as if that continues, this will be even worse in a couple of years from now. I think it's significant. Howard, I don't know if Howard Chabner made the meeting or not, because he wanted me to do Prop I rather than the J. So I did that as a favor to him. But what I was going to say is that when we did Prop L back in Restore Transportation Balance, it had to do with parking and transit issues, and you know, taking away car lanes and, you know, putting in parking permit areas and meters in places where no one wanted them, you know, creating all the bicycle lanes at the expense of for parking. And you know, we got 37% of the vote. This got 35% of the vote.
Yeah.
That's not a good trend. Unless people are willing to really put in the money and do educating, I think that this may be the last measure. And I know that Mary Eliza won't like me saying this, where we have a ghost of a chance of getting our point across. Now, I think the important thing, though, is that I am pleased with basically how we did in the western part of District 1, all 4, most of 7, 11, and the southern part of 10. Now, if you look again to the area that I mentioned south of the park, those areas were all added to District 7. So imagine, if you will, when you know, we have our election in 2024 for district supervisor, how are those voters going to vote? Probably to the left of Melgar, which is a pretty hard task to do. So, but that's the bargain. That's the devil's bargain that we got. We, against our protests and our strong opposition, they moved to Merced Manor and Lakeshore Acres, which are arguably the most conservative 2 neighborhoods in the city, to District 4, and took it out of District 7, but then added those areas from the inner Sunset, which are not friendly. So it's problematic. Now, the interesting thing that's interesting with this one and with the next maps I'll show you, that Seacliff was really no different in its voting behavior than the outer Richmond. Notwithstanding its upper middle class, or I mean, not upper middle class, it's like the top 1%, or the top 1/10 of 1%, you know, socioeconomically, but politically they voted the same as the outer Richmond. So there's a big hue and cry about moving Seacliff into District 1. And you know, there was also talk about moving Jordan Park and Laurel Village into District 1. Well, look at how they voted there. Yellow, basically around 30 to 35%, which is below the citywide average. If they had joined District 1, they would have made the district more liberal, more progressive. So go figure. And the other thing to point out on, because I know we're talking about redistricting as well, that you look at the Portland district south of 280, and does it belong in District 9? No. Is it closer to the District 10 south of Cesar Chavez? Yes. But that was a choice. So we did not go that route. I did that 10 years ago. I got my head handed to me. It's still I'm still talking though. It wasn't detached badly, but we decided not to do that. But I mean, frankly, somewhere down the line, Potrero Hill needs to go somewhere else. And I think it probably, depending on what the growth is, they either go to District 9, north of 280, or they go to District 6. But they really do not, they never belonged in that district. It's just that we didn't know what to do with it. Its voting behavior was much closer to Hayes Valley, but as you can see, Hayes Valley is 2 miles away. There was no way we could really connect them. And so it had to go somewhere, and so it ultimately ended up in District 10, and that's where it's been ever since. So, Mary, let's go to Prop H.
Let's see, H.
Refresh our memory, where's Prop H?
Prop H was on moving the elections. This is it. You got it. And you see the colors are not as intense as it was on the neighborhoods. And you'll also see, can you, Lord, thanks. You also see that in the Marina and Pacific Heights, that those areas that were completely indifferent on the issue of Prop I and J, and also you go to Russian Hill, Chinatown, Nob Hill, Telegraph Hill, that those neighborhoods were very much concerned about moving the election. Also look at the Bayview Hunters Point. Now, it so happens that the mayor was opposed to Prop H for good reason, because it will significantly reduce your chances to get elected or reelected, because it would be a more progressive electorate. So she did have some influence among African Americans in the Western Addition and in the Tenderloin and in Bayview Hunters Point, but not enough to sway it. It only got, the no forces got just over 28%. And that's really appalling from my perspective. We've had local elections always in off years since going back to 1910, even before the old charter. And that they've been chipping away against that. And this is the final step of moving everything to even years. And it means that not only will it change the profile of who the voters are, but it means that local elections are going to be completely eclipsed by national and state politics. And people aren't going to get the coverage that they need. It's a great formula for people who are millionaires and billionaires that want to run, because they already can have a name ID, or they can get it, they can pay for it. But for Joe Blow running for office, it means that they don't have a chance if they're challenging an incumbent. But be it as it may, the voters in their wisdom in 2002 or 2001 endorsed ranked choice voting. And we did everything we could to eliminate that or to prevent it. I was, by luck of the draw, the official opponent of it. we actually met in Jane Morrison's dining room. Because there's a broad scale coalition against it. But unfortunately, the other side outspent us and the people that were concerned about keeping the system as it was didn't put the money until the very end, and it was too late. So I don't know. It's to me, it's very disappointing. Now, talking about district elections. Now, if you look very carefully at the Tenderloin, look at the vote of the Tenderloin. You know, it was the Tenderloin, by and large, voted in favor of or opposed to Prop H. Now, I mean, it was like 35 to 65 as opposed to 28 to 72%. But it's far more moderate than you know, the rest of District 5. So there was method in the madness of the mayor's people on the task force and on the redistricting task force of moving the Tenderloin into District 5, then removing the inner sunset from the district, and also Hayes Valley or Cove Valley from the district, and that will have an effect on the District 5 supervisorial race. Trust me, I was really surprised to see how the Tenderloin was going on a number of measures. So why don't we go to the next one, dear?
Okay, which would that be?
I don't know at this point. That's it. You just,
L?
L.
No.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, this is Prop
Is
L. So this is Prop L, and again, we got just over 28% for no on L. Very limited opposition. There are only, I think, 8 precincts where it failed. And, you know, 4 of them are right around Slope. So
What is Proposition L?
Prop L was
Sales tax.
the tax measure on transportation.
Thank you.
So you'll see that it got, no was 40% in the Sunset District compared to 28% citywide. But all that wide area that you see in districts 3, 5, 8, 9, and 6, no, they were, it got more than 2/3 of the vote there. And again, the difference between the inner Richmond and the outer Richmond and Seacliff. So again, Seacliff, if you look at Seacliff and you look at the outer Richmond, identical voting behavior. And then the Republican areas in Presidio Heights. Now that's in quotes. That's like 15 to 18% Republican. So that's the highest that we have in the city. But you know, the city's like 6.7% Republican, but those bastions are what used to be Republican bastions. Basically, in the Marina, Pacific Heights, and Presidio Heights, did vote above did defeat the measure because you only needed 1/3 to defeat the measure. But unfortunately, we didn't get that other 5 points that we needed to defeat it citywide. So that's pretty much it for me. I'm kind of spent at this point, so I'll open up to questions.
Okay, before you do, Chris, I have one pre-submitted question.
Sure.
Okay, it reads as follows. The very first redistricting map submission was by a member of the public was by David Pilpel. His citywide map submission proposed that Lakeshore would become part of District 4. Every other submission, members of the public showed Lakeshore remaining in District 7. Although David Pilpel's map was the only submission by the members of the public proposing that Lakeshore become part of District 4, Lakeshore and Merced Manor were redistricted into District 4. What are your thoughts on that?
Charles, I'm going to do you a favor or ask you for a favor. Let me answer that question after I've answered everyone else's questions.
Okay,
Because I'm going to piss off some people with my answers. And I don't want to close the lines of communications. Okay,
Okay, you got it.
so please open it up to anyone to ask questions.
Okay, if you have a question, please raise your hand either with the little icon or else if you want to trust my eyes and all, we'll try to do it visually. But right now, I'm not seeing any hands up.
Oh dear. Well, I don't know whether I put people to sleep or I've answered everyone's question.
Oh, Frank
Frank
Noto.
Noto has his hand up.
Okay, Frank, good.
My question is quick. Is it possible to get a copy of this, of your graphs?
Yes,
Well, given I did it extemporaneously, well, you're recording this, right?
Recording.
Right.
Yeah, so Mary, maybe you can get a transcript or something.
we can do that, but we also have copies of the maps.
Yeah, that's what I was asking about. Getting copies of the map. And
I can send them to you.
I assume, when it's larger,
Frank, we had some difficulty putting the maps into focus. You know, I'm not a skillful, you know, technologist. So,
Well-
you know, what you see is what you would get.
well, this is a real service to all of us. I presume the color coding is explained on the maps when you see a larger version. Is that right?
I'm sorry, say again.
The color coding on the maps is explained.
No, I haven't done that yet. I just wanted to get the colors down in the precinct. But again, for your application, the dark red is over 55%. Regular red, cardinal red is 50% to 55%. Then you have gradations of orange from 45 to 50%, 40 to 45%, and light orange 35 to 40. And then the yellow is 30 to 35% for two maps, but only 33.3% to 35% on the Prop L map, because I wanted to show graphically those areas where it failed and where we were successful, but the areas where it did not. So, yeah. I mean, I have a whole year now, thanks to Prop 8, I think, to be able to do all these maps and do the legends. And I'd love to, you know, assuming you don't disown me into the answer to Eileen's question, I'd be love to give it to Sharp or West of Twin Peaks or anyone else when we can actually do it in person. This has been very difficult.
Okay, are there any other questions from any of the assembled masses on screen? Or anybody calling in? Okay, seeing none, Chris, did you?
Okay, well, I'm going to ask the question. I'm going to answer the question. I'm going to be as tactful as I can be. You do realize that the mayor and the realtors and the billionaires, that group, you know, that raised spent $8 million over the course of 2.5, not even 2.5 years, like 25 months, 26 months, Neighbors for a Better San Francisco. They basically handpicked or recruited their candidates to be on the task force. And there were 5 of them. Actually, I had 6 candidates, but only 5 of them got nominated. But the Department of the Elections Commission appointed 2 of the 3, and the mayor appointed 3 of the 3. San Francisco Rising, who we thought initially were the bad guys, at least I did, and some other people did. But ultimately, the plan that they came up with was very similar to the plan that the coalition West of Twin Peaks Council submitted, with a couple of exceptions. But it was very conceptually, it was They drew the line at Sloat. They agreed that most of Russian Hill should go to District 2 and that Rincon Hill should go to District 3. And we went a little bit farther than they did, but basically similar in a lot of ways. But they had three people. And then the fourth person was appointed by the commission, who basically he waffled, but ultimately he joined the anti-mayor people. So that's the 5 votes were already there. It was pretty much a done deal. It had nothing to do with public testimony, although they did organize testimony from a number of people with the same talking points, so they would have cover to do whatever they were going to, all the dirty deeds that they were going to do. And they did several dirty deeds. And you can quote me on that. So let's get back to the issue of, Sloat and what happened with Lakeshore Village and Merced Manor. Eileen is correct on one level that David Pilpo is the first member of the public to submit a plan that basically had those neighborhoods going north. But he also had a plan that had the OMI going into District 7. And so that was a non-starter. And in fact, one of the first things that we did in organizing around our plan, even before our plan was submitted, was to make sure that the commission basically kept the districts of the boundaries of District 11 intact and actually restored some of the areas that have been lost 10 years previously because of population shifts. But Eileen, you proposed that the parking lot in Stonestown be connected with District 4 by including Merced Manor. So, you also advocated that. You also advocated that none of the inner Sunset go to District 7. Rather that it either go, I don't know where it was going to go. It was going to be split between 4 and 5 or kept in 5, which was a non-starter because 5 ultimately needed to lose population. But you can't have Lakeshore Acres hanging out there with District 4 on the other side of 19th Avenue and 23rd and District 4 in between. Now, it's the issues of contiguousness. I can't say it. Continuity. Basically, 2 areas need to be able to connect, and Sloat was the connector. So ultimately, there was an effort by a front for the realtors that was in the Asian community. I forget what they were called, but they were at all the hearings, and they said, we want, above putting Portola into Bayview Hunters Point, we want to get everything in the inner Sunset to 14th, but we want to get Lakeshore Acres and Merced Manor and Lowell High School and Lakeshore Elementary School into District 4. And their rationale was that because we have students from Chinese students from District 4 that go to those schools. And therefore, I can't tell you how ludicrous that line of argument was. And then there were some other people, and unfortunately, there's some infighting between, quite frankly, the Crest Lake people, not Crest Lake, but it's Pine Lake and Lakeshore Acres as to where they wanted to be. And that kind of undercut our efforts as well. But so basically, the only way that you could get to Lakeshore Village or Acres if Eileen's plan had succeeded, would be to go through Skyline Boulevard or through Lake Merced Boulevard via use San Francisco State. Not good. Okay. So, at any rate, all these people have been lobbying to have the high school and the elementary school in the two neighborhoods go, and it's from the Chinese community. And so Chesil Lee, who I think is an officer of the Alice B. Toklas Club, and he's a gay Asian. When they were doing the line drawings, he didn't give any rationale at all. He just simply moved the thing down to where the boundaries are, and as hard as we tried, we could not get them to budge. They budged on a few other things, but ultimately, all the inner Sunset, which we suggest be divided at like 12th or Funston between 4 and 7, all of it went to 7, and we lost, those two neighborhoods. And
Christopher, you have two questions,
there
Christopher.
were people on this call who advocated that against the position of the coalition. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. We're running out of time, so let's make these questions very quick and to the point, please. Mary Eliza, you first.
Okay, I meant to ask you earlier, what happened with the mission? Were there less people voting than normal in the mission? Is that one of the reasons why things didn't go so well in the mission? Do you remember? Did you get it?
No, I mean, the mission, I don't have the figures in front of me, but I will research it for you on turnout. As far as I know, the turnout in the mission was about average for this type of an election. It's always been about average. It was more than it was in June, but almost every neighborhood was more than it was in June. But they voted very much progressive, as they have down the line. Now, to give you an example on 9, no on D, and that's interesting. So no on D was 55% in District 9. No on E was 43%. So that's a fairly consistent vote, that you vote for one and you vote against the other.
Okay,
And,
thank you, Chris.
And if you look at the Mission District, as far as on any of these three propositions, those propositions did not do well. As far
Okay.
as no on L, no on H, and yes on I.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now, Frank, did you have another question, or was your hand still up from before?
Now I have a quick question. You gave the percentage for Marie Furia Biel in the College Board. What was that?
I'm sorry, say again.
What was the percentage for Marie Furia Biel in the college, on the College Board?
Oh, Marie Carabio got 40,220 votes. Now, if you use the Department of Election stats, it was some ungodly low number. But if you use the base of 307,000, she got 13.5%. But if you use the base of those people who actually voted for at least one candidate in that race, for College Board, she got about 17%.
I see.
It's about 240,000, I think. I'll have to look at my data. I don't have it off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you very much, Chris. It's very informative as usual.
Thank you very much. So, anyway, you can mute me now.